Hello everyone, hope you're well. I'm so glad to be doing this episode of the BrightTeach Podcast with you. My name is Arnold and we run this podcast in order to support you in your education. We believe at BrightTeach in the power of working as a team. So we produce this to help really the first team that every student is a part of, the family, to support the student in their education and to help them to go on towards success, whatever success might look like for you. Today, we have Jareeda on the call, who's a great friend of mine, and the conversation is going to be about anxiety. Hey, Jareeda, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, hi, I'm Jareeda. I'm a trainee counsellor and very passionate about mental health, well-being, feeling all the feelings and
Yep.
things like that. Um,
Yes.
and I'm here today to talk about anxiety that is very much prevalent in society at the moment.
Yes. Do you know what I've noticed that is incredibly prevalent, but also awareness actually will really help handle anxiety. Once you're aware of what you're feeling, you can actually start to make steps to move forward. But I think maybe a lot of students are struggling to understand what to do just because they're not fully aware of actually these symptoms right here. That's anxiety. But that's way beyond. I'm getting too excited. Okay, I'm going way beyond where I was meant to be at this point. Now, for those of you who are listening, this is going to be the first time that you're hearing this. But actually, this is probably about the third take that we've done, the fourth, I think, take that we've done of this because of various technical issues that have gone on. And normally we have a fun fact segment where I would ask or I'd tell Jareeda certain facts and she'd have to work out whether or not they were true. And the first one we've already been through. Now she already knows that the fact I told her was in fact a lie. And it was that I said that 30% of university students state that they're in a perpetual state of worry and anxiety. And that's not true. It's nearly 50%, 42.8%. 1 in every 2 practically students say that they are in a perpetual state of anxiety and worry, which is absolutely an incredible shame. It is so sad that many students.
And I'd say it's probably higher for students.
Yes, yeah, that's right. For secondary school students, more of you might be feeling that. You might be feeling more pressure. GCSE and A levels can have an impact for you. You might feel has a massive impact on your future. So therefore, you start to feel that great sense of anxiety. That's how you might be feeling. Hopefully, this session, this time, this conversation will allow you to feel like it's okay. It's all right. Everything's okay. And you might not need to put any undue pressure on yourself during your major exams. But Jareeda, I do have a second one for you.
Yeah.
All right, there's a second fun fact, and let's see if you can work it out. Okay, so 5.8 million 3 to 17-year-old children were diagnosed with anxiety.
5.8 million. Oh gosh, I'm not good with numbers, so I reckon that's true. Possibly.
Yes, it is. It is. It is true. That's right. So nearly 6 million 3 to 17-year-olds between 2016 and 2019 were diagnosed with anxiety. So that's going to be a chunk of the type of listeners that we have on this podcast. Anxiety is definitely a prevailing mental health issue, and it is so good for us to be able to talk about it. Now, I mean, Jareeda, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your take is on what anxiety actually is?
Yeah, so anxiety, how I kind of define it with clients is like this sense of unease, this fear, this worry that is constant. And most of the time, you will feel the anxiety in your body somewhere. Um,
Okay.
and the anxiety in your body is actually telling you about things that you're feeling. So it's not a feeling, it's a state of being. And then what will happen is you'll feel an emotion of some kind underlying there. And the anxiety is a warning sign. Your body feels like it's under threat. And so it's kind of just this constant unease, this constant worry, this constant thinking that's meant to, your body's way of protecting you from the threat.
Mm,
But
mhm.
the when we get into those kind of habits and defense mechanisms and things like that, they last longer than they are needed for. And then that's when they can really be problematic when you're kind of going into everyday life like that.
Yes, yeah. I think for me, when I was in school, the anxiety came whenever I would think about the outcome if I failed.
Mm,
This idea of like, oh my goodness, my life revolves around this 1 week. And if this 1 week I don't get the grades that I'm looking for, I don't know what's going to, I have a plan for success, right? Whatever success is, I have a plan for that. But I don't have a plan for failure. So I can't fail. So you wake up at 9 in the morning and you're like, I need to revise. I better revise. And you finish your revision. You're like, I didn't revise enough because I don't know enough. And all of this just starts to keep bubbling up within you.
mm-hmm.
And it's such a, it's not a nice place to be. You know, I understand the idea like people work well under pressure and so on, but there is a certain type of anxiety that's quite detrimental because I used to be quite mean to my family. I'd tell them, no, I don't want anything to do with it and stop talking to me or whatever. And I just didn't think it was right. How were you in school when it came to anxiety?
I was very anxious. Me in school didn't quite get on in the way they tested. I just don't learn
Right.
that way, right? And so I
Yeah.
was being tested in a way that I wasn't couldn't show my best. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that caused a lot of anxiety. But it's interesting what you said as well about this kind of idea that people have of I do well under pressure, and that's actually acute stress, and it can be good for you.
Mm.
But anxiety is not acute stress; it's long term, and
Yes.
that's the issue
Yes.
with it. It's constant; it keeps going. Whereas some people work well with that acute stress under pressure, they get it done,
Hmm.
and then it's gone. But with anxiety, it just you keep thinking about it, and that was me when I would fail exams. My teacher would say, "You know all the answers. I don't understand why you're not doing well."
Hmm.
And I would say, "I don't understand why I'm doing well. I'm not doing well either." And then you kind of start to doubt yourself. Do I really know
Yeah.
all this stuff that I think I know? Am I really,
Yeah.
and then you worry about the future, like you said. And when we're a teenager, everything is we're still in the state of now. It's we struggle to look too far into the future
Mm.
because we've
Hmm.
only
Hmm.
lived a fairly short amount of time, and so you've got
Yeah.
this whole unknown future, and what you're doing now you're told is meant to kind of direct that A levels, GCSEs. It's going to mean that you can get into university and what that
Hmm.
means. And it's just
Hmm.
a lot of weight for a teenager to
Yeah.
carry on top of the identity issues of a young
Yeah.
person, right?
Working themselves out.
Working
They don't
yourself
even know
out,
what's going on with them.
finding out
Yeah. Yeah.
figure out who you are and who your friends are. And there's so much anxiety that comes with that too.
Yes, I think no doubt. And what I've experienced in my life, and parents, if you're listening, all right, don't hang up or say, "Do you know, what, don't listen to him because he doesn't know what he's talking about." But in all honesty, in my life, I've found out that if something doesn't go as planned, that's okay. It's just a detour. It's not the end of the world.
Hmm.
So if you're set on whatever that particular plan is, that's okay. That's fine. And the first step that you made didn't quite work out. It's just a detour. You can always come back to that track, and don't stress too much about it. And on top of that, many students don't actually know about the depth of opportunity that are available out there. They think if I follow this narrow path, then it will lead to this narrow result, and that's where every adult exists. And that might not be the case. I mean, I've got a degree in biochemistry and I run a business. You end up going in in different directions.
Mm,
So yeah, I'm finding that I'm talking to a lot of students about
yeah.
it's okay,
Yeah,
it's fine.
I'm kind of doing this with my daughter now where I want to teach her that the end goal is not the point. The trying
Mm.
is the point. And so
Mhm.
when she's
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
things that, I'm starting this early with her, she's not even 2 yet, and I'm like praising her for trying.
Mhm.
Well done, just for trying. Doesn't matter if you
Mhm.
failed or
Mhm.
not, because you can always
Mhm.
get back on that track. And that kind of
Yeah.
support, despite the end goal, I think really helps so much, because then it's like you don't you don't change how you see me. The world doesn't change how I see me depending on if I succeed or failed, because that looks different for everyone. Success looks different
Mm.
for everyone.
Mhm.
Failure looks different for everyone.
Mm.
So if
Mm.
we're all praised for
Yeah.
trying, we'll end up with the encouragement that we need to get wherever we're going.
Yes. 100%. In fact, I think that's where the true value is, at the trying. I remember it would be like back in the day when I was doing my exams. I would study for an exam, and then I did not get the grade that I was looking for. And I was afraid of telling that to my mum, because my mum expected high grades. But then I would tell her, I'd say, Mum, I actually got a C or a D or whatever. And then what she would say to me is, did you try your best? And then I'd look in, I'd say, yes, I did. And she says, well, that's all you can give. And that taught me a bigger lesson than if I got an A, because it teaches me that constantly trying and going for it and just attempt. And if you fail, that's okay. Get up, try again. It makes life a lot easier and puts a lot less pressure, sorry, or relieves the pressure from that one thing, this
Mm,
one exam that's going to determine my life and oh man, everything will explode if I don't. Yeah,
yeah.
that's just not how life is. You just got to try.
And my mum used to say this a similar thing, because again, I wasn't
Yeah.
great at exams, and the question would always be,
Hmm.
did you try your best? Did you work your hardest? If you can say to yourself in 20, 30 years time, do you know what? I tried my best. That's all you can give. If you've got, a 100 ml bottle, and you give all of that 100 ml, you've tried your best.
Hmm.
Some people might have
Hmm.
300 ml, but if they only give
Hmm.
20 ml of that, it might still look
Hmm.
bigger than yours, but it's still not their best. So they've still got
Yeah,
loads of work. So
exactly.
everyone's at
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
and
yeah,
comparing can definitely make anxiety so much worse. Comparison is the thief of joy.
yes, yeah, definitely. Comparison is a massive thief, where you see other people beyond you. I remember actually when I started my own company, and I'd see other people who maybe had a few more students than I did, or I don't know, was able to charge more than I was doing. All of a sudden, I start getting anxious about what I'm doing. I'm not doing enough. I'm not working enough.
Mm,
I'm not good enough, which is a massive, massive problem.
mm,
I think what is just true is success is hardly ever. I'm going to say 0.1%, if that, dependent on one event. Everything revolves around one event. I think success is a, a consistency on many small events. So if you do well in a few things and then it doesn't really work out for one thing, and then you do well in a few more things, you're on that trajectory of success.
mm,
Then on that one event, oh man, if you don't do well in that, and by many events, I'm not saying that there are many pressurizing moments, but you just, it's like, were you able to study for 5 minutes extra than you did yesterday? That is a success. That is, you're moving in that direction of success. And maybe that exam didn't go as you wanted, but you will still come to a point where you'll be able to overcome. Let's say you have to do this exam in order to be an accountant, for
mm.
example. If it doesn't work out that time, the fact that you're adding like success, you will come to a point where you'll be able to overcome that thing. So do not hold on to that. But I think ultimately we're just kind of complaining about how destructive anxiety is. We need to actually give people tools.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jareeda, do you have any suggestions of what students can do to help handle the anxiety that they're feeling?
Yeah, so a big one for me, and I mean, I tell people this about everything. I mean, anxiety, this will work so well for anxiety, but it generally works for everything. And like you were talking about
Okay.
earlier, awareness is
Hmm.
huge. And so
Hmm.
self check-ins in the morning, before you go to bed, And as you get used to doing them, maybe one at lunchtime, you'll start to do it more frequently. And a self check-in is just checking in with yourself. How do I feel right now? Where do I feel it? So you might have an exam tomorrow and you feel knots in your stomach, or your arms might get tingly. It feels different for everyone. So when you check in with yourself daily, what you'll start to notice is regular feelings, the consistency of it. And what you'll notice is, oh, every time I have an exam, I get the tingles in my arm. Or every time that I have to do revision for subjects that I'm not so happy with how good I am at it, I get a knot in my stomach. That's anxiety. You'll feel it before
Mm,
you register it up here, and your body will
mm,
tell you.
mm.
When you're in those moments, that awareness is, that's kind of the first thing I would say to really help on this journey. If you're aware of it, like you said before, you can do something about it.
Yes, yes, definitely. Okay, so being able to check in with your feelings, I think stereotypically, you're going to find that a lot of the guys don't do that. So if you are a guy here, if you're a man, if you're a male, all right, and you're thinking, you're hearing this, and you're like, nah, that's not for me. I'm telling you, it's going to transform the way in which you approach your studies. It's not really just about power through it, but it's about like going through it well. So if you're able to say, actually, all this stress, all this tension that I'm feeling, this desire to like burst, that's actually anxiety. Okay, I've accepted it. I'm going to relieve it, and now I can move forward and actually be successful. Actually move forward. Actually achieve the thing that I want to do. Because I know us guys, we want to achieve, right? So you need to be able to understand what's going on internally to be able to achieve better moving forward. 100%. All right, great. So I guess, Jareeda, what would you say some 3 takeaways are from this? People who are listening, well, 3 things that should be taken away from this.
3 things. So yeah, self check-in awareness goes a long way. Um, 2, I'm gonna throw in breathing squares. When you're anxious,
Okay,
breathing squares will reset you. So when you're feeling nervous, a
okay.
breathing square is literally you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds. Set your phone to a timer for a minute, 1 minute of a breathing square, and you'll find you're just a little bit more relaxed. And when you do it, just focus on your breathing in and out and counting the numbers. And if your mind starts to wander, just bring it back to the numbers and the square. That will really
Wow.
help when your body is feeling the anxiety to tell your
Mm,
body, it's okay, we're safe. So that's
okay.
a takeaway as well. And what I'd say is it's okay to feel the pressures. Everyone feels the pressures. The awareness will help you register it, the breathing will help you calm. And then it's just about what do I want to do next? Now that I understand where I'm at, how do I want to go forward? So if you know that you've got mass amounts of anxiety for that exam tomorrow, and because you've been checking in, you know when you're anxious, you tend to forget things. Okay, maybe I need an extra half an hour of revision today because I'm actually really anxious of this. The
Mm,
awareness
mm.
comes, you do your breathing square, and then you can respond instead of react.
Right. Okay. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jareeda. And for those parents who are listening, I think you're going to be a pinnacle part in the development of your child, obviously. Hopefully you would know that. But this is one way in which you're really going to support them. You don't want to add the anxiety to your child's life. You want to relieve it. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't have expectations of your child to do well, because you know that your child can do well. You have that passion for them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you increase their anxiety. So from the things that we've mentioned, really encouraging the process more than the outcome in your child will go a lot further than the outcome itself. Believe me, the A's and A stars that I've achieved are one thing. Great, wow, that's nice. But the sheer fact that my mum encouraged me to keep going when I fell down, that it's okay if I didn't do well, that has taken me to where I am now. And I know I'll give that to my children, and my children will give that to their grandchildren, and it will allow me to keep going. So definitely do that if you're a parent, and if you're a child, if you're a student, it's okay. It's all right. All right. The world doesn't revolve around your GCSEs or your A levels. Work hard at it. Try your best at it. Put in the hours. But give it your best, and that's all that can be expected from you. Don't let the numbers determine who you are. Okay. Great. What a pleasure to be talking to you, Jareeda. This has been so much
Thanks for
fun.
having
I've
me.
loved it. And even the many times that we've had to redo this podcast, I've thoroughly enjoyed each section of it. So thank you, and thank you all for listening. Hopefully we'll be seeing you next week.